Akemtum is probably the best poisoner there is out there for most bossing scenarios in Raid Shadow Legends, and today we're going to be checking out how to actually build him to be a total machine. Hello, my name is Midway and welcome to a new video. I want to teach you how to get your Akemtum to do as much damage as possible, and we are going to be of course covering what his kit does, as well as of course all the build shenanigans like gearing, masteries and so on and so forth as we are approaching this dragon. Akemtum is particularly powerful in bossing, as we talked about. One of those bosses where he really excels is the dragon. Of course, the clan boss is going to be another one. Hard mode spider is going to be another one. We'll check out those rankings where he's particularly very desirable for your team in a moment. For now, let's just get into it as we are finishing up this dragon in a moment. So there we go, we're just finishing up the run and we are going to be checking out the amount of damage that my Akemtum did in particular. We'll move in a moment into the build and so on and so forth, and he did about 500k. You cannot actually see it because the camera is in the middle. There you go, half a million on this dragon run, which is not too bad, as well as the Alice, right? So let's go ahead into the bashing for a moment. Freeze! Click the link in the description right now and get a free legendary Karato as well as 2 free epics as you level up. So here's what you need to do. First of all, log out of Plarium Play on PC and uninstall. Then click the link in the description of this video and register a brand new email. Launch Raid and complete the tutorial, and then go to your inbox and claim your first champ. You'll find Karato here as well as Tagoar and Uugo as you progress through the game. This is an amazing account starting Raid, so click the link right now and follow the steps. And if you are a Legend of Mushroom player, I also got a special link down there in the description. Don't miss out on this offer, go ahead and check it out now. Let's start it off with checking out his kit and we'll move on to the gear in a moment, right? So what does he do, right? He's a poisoner, that's where he really excels at applying poisons, which are of course debuffs, so accuracy is going to be very damn important, and then those poisons are going to be doing the damage for him, right? So that's going to be his A1, it's going to be one attack that's going to be attacking 3 times. Every single hit is going to be having a big chance of applying a 5% poison debuff for 2 turns, pretty important. Now if the target is under Hex debuff, which we will talk about how you apply that in a moment, every hit also has a chance of applying a debuff spread effect, right? So you're going to be able to spread the poisons you are applying if the enemies already have the Hex debuff, taking 1 random debuff from target and placing it in all other enemies, right? That's the idea. Now, how do you apply the Hex? That's going to be happening with the second attack over here, Immortal Malison, which is going to be attacking all enemies 3 times. Every time you hit them, they're going to be having a big chance of getting the Hex debuff on them for a single turn, right? So it can stack up to 3 turns if it applies all 3 times. If enemies are not under the Hex debuff, each hit also has a 50% chance of placing the Hex debuff for 2 turns, right? So it can end up being 3 turns on them. It actually can be like pretty high amount of Hex on the enemies, right? So the idea is this attack would go off, and then the poisons that you apply to those targets with the Hex debuff are going to be spread out, right? So you apply the Hex, then you apply the poisons to one single enemy, and that's going to be applied pretty much everybody, and that is on some sort of AoE scenario, right? Like clearing any stages before the bosses. Now in most bossing scenarios, you don't really care much about the debuff spread because there's only going to be 1 enemy, so that kind of goes out of the way, right? This is of course going to be scaling with attack because it's an attack champion. Same goes for Immortal Malison, right? So then there is also the passive, which is going to be reading the following. It's a very high chance, 80% chance, which can go all the way up to 100, as you can see once you level it up, of inflicting damage from one of the poisons, right? 1 poison debuff to enemies under a Hex debuff, right? So if they do have that debuff, there's a pretty much 100% chance if you level up the skill of doing extra damage with one of the poisons whenever their allies receive damage from poison debuffs. Whenever any of the other enemies receive damage from the poisons, they're also going to be getting damage onto them with whatever poison they have, right? So it's going to be like a trigger, a chain reaction of poisons between all the enemies. So his AoE potential of damage with the poisons is quite big, right? So now the thing is about bossing, this is not really going to be happening because as far as I read this, right, whenever their allies receive damage from poison debuffs, meaning if it's a single enemy, right, a single boss, he's not going to be retroactively having this proc on himself, right? So whenever a poison does damage to him, even if he has Hex or not, this effect wouldn't trigger because it's not an ally if it's himself, right? So in this case, and in particular for bossing, I actually simply straight up just use his A1 because it's going to be a lot of poisons being applied, right? It's like there's a pretty big chance of actually, was it like a 50% chance, as you can see when you level up to max, of having 3 poisons applied. with every single A1, right? So you would just have a lot of speed, a lot of accuracy on Akemtum, and then you just have 3 stacks of poison, or rather 3 different debuffs of poison, applying every single time he does the A1. That is, of course, if you have the chance or you are lucky enough of this actually applying, and then, of course, if you also meet the requirements of accuracy, right? Now, finally, we also have his aura, which is going to be speed in all battles, actually a pretty decent one, and that is going to be very, very thematically aligned with the gear he likes, right? So that's what we are running on him. We are running perception and speed, right? Now, of course, we are going to be valuing that accuracy quite a little bit because we are doing quite some high content, so we need those debuffs to actually be applying. We have the hex debuffs as well as the poisons, right? So those are the accuracy is going to be mandatory, totally, right? As soon as you go to any higher level of content, that is going to be totally mandatory, right? And then, of course, the speed, just so you can get more A1s. Again, for most bossing scenarios, it's going to be one enemy, so speed is going to be detrimental, so you can just get more A1 attacks going on and off and off and off and off, so you can just like stack all those poisons. And that's why Akemtum really shines, because you can just like get so many stacks of poisons on one single enemy so damn quick, as you make him very speedy, very accurate, and also, of course, if you got some more attack percentage increasing his gear, his just like straight up attack, as well as his crit rate is always going to be nice, right? So that's kind of going to be his stat priority. So yeah, I'm running him on the perception and speed gear. Some other people like to run it on some bloodthirsty gear or some lifesteal gear, just so you can get him to be a little more sturdy. Of course, he's an attack champion, which is going to be leeching out a lot of that damage that he does every single turn that the enemy takes with all those poisons. So that's another way of getting him to actually become a lot more sturdy. In my case, I'm not really lacking the survivability on him. I'm running him with Oella for the most part, and he's kind of chilling, although he's a little bit weaker, especially because his defense is so low. So for example, in my case, he's being targeted in the clan boss, which is not exactly ideal, right? I also have a little bit low crit rate and crit damage, right? So I would like to scale up a little bit more, but all in all, I mean, his gear is by no means perfect. Of course, you can see that I'm really lacking a lot of pieces and stuff. I don't even have a lot of the stuff that I could really put on him, and maybe like this wouldn't be too bad. Actually, yeah, it's a little bit terrible. In any case, this is by no means the ideal gear, but the sets are actually decent, right? Like accuracy and speed are probably the two best options, unless you really are going to be going for something that's going to be making him die a little bit less, which would be again bloodthirsty or lifesteal. Right, now let's move on to masteries. There's going to be 2 builds you want to be running on him. Yeah, I'm currently running it on the sort of clan boss recommended build on Hell Hades, which is just going to be giving you a little bit more accuracy of the support side. Of course, on the offensive side, is going to be going for max single target damage, basically everything you can get out of that for the bossing side of things, which is where he really excels, and that's exactly what we are getting, right? We got that extra accuracy of just basically all of our side of the support tree, and then we are going over here with a giant slayer for a little bit of bonus damage onto those big bosses. There's other builds which are recommended, which would be for more sort of high-end content, of course, like the Hydra, but here is really also a pretty strong option as a basically a big attack champion, and that is going to be a little bit more of a defensive setup here. And then we finally have a bit of an AoE clearer, which, I mean, I guess you would really want for like Doom Tower, where he is also not too terrible. Of course, we do have a little bit of the rankings over here and such, but yeah, he wouldn't really be that great in general. Like Doom Tower, just like AoE clearing is not terrible, bossing side of things not the greatest, right? So if you would want for something a little bit more AoE focused, then this is sort of what you would want. For example, like for Spider, if you would really want to be having an extra help on that AoE clearing, you would kind of spec into this other setup of masteries. And finally, for blessings, we are always going to be running with cruelty. The reason for that is because it's a triple hit champion, right? So every time we're going to be doing this, and we're going to be spamming the hell of those A1s, you're going to be decreasing the enemy's defense, right? So you want to be doing a lot of this, right? You're going to be, most scenarios, in particular for bossing, I would not even use, like, set up my AI to not use Immortal Malice on, so it's only going to be all these triple hits happening over and over and over, right? That's why cruelty, no matter what your soul level is, whether that is level 1 or level 6, it's just going to be the best choice, right? Decreasing that target's defense by 4%, up to 40% for champions, and up to 20% for bosses. You're going to be stacking this up quite quickly, so you're going to be able to decrease that defense quite well, right? Even if it's only soul level 1, at least it's 5%, so that's a lot of extra damage. Everything else, of course, those stats are always going to be set in stone. That is pretty much how you build Akemtum. He's an insane damage dealer. He definitely took me all the way up there in the clan boss as soon as I got him. Put him together with some survivability like I do with Oela, with a little bit of speed increases as well as just like turn meter increase and such, and then just get him such survivability, and he is going to be an insane machine of just dishing a lot of damage. Of course, get him on the right power level so he's actually able to do his things. That's basically going to be the whole thing for this video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Now before you go ahead and check out Aptoide, which is going to be allowing you to get bonuses whenever you're doing any purchase within Raid Shadow Legends. When you download it through Aptoide, those bonuses can go from extra 10% of your money all the way up to extra 35% of the amount of money you're spending, right? So like picture this, I'm going to be buying this pack. If I do so with the amount of bonus that I currently have unlocked, I'm going to be getting 3 euros as a cashback, right? Now once I do have enough of the bonuses, I can go ahead and use those to make the payments for me instead of actually using my real money. So like let's just go into the shop and find a pack that's going to be a little bit cheaper, right? So something like this. I do have at least, I don't know, I think I have like 10 bucks in bonuses right now, right? So I could actually use the Aptoide balance, which is the bonus that I talked about, to do the payment for me without actually using my real money. It's just going to be multiplying the value for your money, and all it takes is just to download Raid Shadow Legends through Aptoide. Again, there's going to be a guide down in the description if you got any questions, or you are just like looking at set it up. That guide is going to be taking you like 5 minutes, and you can set it up on your Android devices as well as like Android emulators on your PC, right? And yeah, if you go ahead and use my code, it's also going to be down here on the screen as well as down in the description. You can get a bonus, can go from extra just like flat 5% from the get-go, right? So you can increase that all the way up to 35% as we talked about, right? So that's pretty much all there is for the video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about the video in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next one. Like, subscribe, and that's it. Bye bye, see you.